Now I can see you again. Okay, this meeting is being live streamed. Okay.
Okay, so where is that then? Okay, so that should be there. And let me see. Apparently it's a go. So yay, thank you so much for jumping in. You have been a huge part of my personal journey over the last couple of years. So I wanted to introduce you to my Facebook crew and friends and followers and what have you. So if you're jumping in, this is Sonia G from the MoonBabes tribe.
MoonBabes and the Light Tribe.
MoonBabes and the Light Tribe. Exactly. Yeah. So you are in Utah, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We are in Utah, in the mountains.
In the mountains. A special place there, ley lines, huh?
Special place, special ley lines, big, great salt lake made of salt, where we have lots of incredible experiences with just the healing that is possible here. So
yeah, well, it all makes sense from my perspective. The more that I learn to understand energies and you know, us as beings, and then what we have available to the you know, on Earth.
Oh man,
you know, when you go into a place, right, and when you're in an area and the energy is phenomenal, you can feel that. Says my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully we hold up good.
Yeah, it's okay, we'll work with it. Well, energy does this to us too. Freeze and go. I'm gonna light a candle to get us. Hold space, baby. Hold space,
baby. Well, speaking of, I mean, last week it can't have been the only one, but that Mercury retrograde and what's going on up in the planets at the moment. Holy shit, did it knock me around big time. But personally, before I jump into asking you all the things I want to know, personally, it brought up all my abandonment traumas, all of these, you know, past really deep traumas that I went, you know, I even said to myself, and I hear this a lot with in my own work, where people say to me, I thought I worked on that. I thought I dealt with that. So I was finding myself walking along going, I thought I dealt with that shit, right? Yet there it was, that energetic pattern being pulled to the surface. And I literally said to a friend of mine, I said, you know, I'm back from the dead now, because that's how extreme it felt. It was horrendous.
Wow. I know we can laugh about it once we're on the other side, right? But in the moment, it's like, what is happening? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know who you are and what work it is that you do, how do you best describe and explain your work? So if you can,
in a short couple of sentences. My work is to teach people how to access higher states of consciousness, but to rebirth those states of higher consciousness inside of their bodies. So to find heaven inside. This is what I call it, just because people understand the word heaven, right? That's heavenly. But it's finding heaven within, meaning all the things that we go to access, the astral travel, the astral projections, the higher consciousness, we actually really birth it and embody it inside. And that's really my job, is to get people to understand who they truly are, their purpose, their mission, and, you know, to talk about all the things that people don't talk about when it comes to the astral plane and the woo-woo stuff. Yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because I feel like I take the analytical aspect of that and look at, especially in the studies that I'm doing at the moment through my PhD in integrative medicine, and it considers all of you know, what we can't see. I mean, that's truly where we're moving into. And, you know, we study and refer to the 5 bodies of consciousness. And so I feel that's bringing the aspect, I suppose, to what you're referring to through the bliss body, through the supramental, bringing it into the crystallized version of consciousness, which is our realm, right? So I liken your work very much to, say, Dr. Joe Dispenza's neuroscience work, where he data to the metaphysical, shall we say. But how did you even get into this? Because this is not what you've always done.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Did you
I
hear?
was in very 3D kind of jobs all my life. Very much like the corporate America, very much the travel, the fast life, you know. I call it the sex, drugs, and rock and roll life / corporate America. So that's kind of where I was. But I always had a sense, you know, like, I mean, so we all just kind of know. So, and then I just wasn't, you know, I think everybody experiences this part where I just wasn't listening. And it was, you know, there was always like a spiritual pullback. I went through my dark night of the soul when I was in my 20s, like my first, there is no God, you know, there is no Jesus, like there's the nothingness. That all happened. And when I was a kid too, I struggled because I was raised with parents in 2 different religions. And it was just, I was really confused about God and all of this, you know, heaven stuff. So it was always kind of a quest of mine. But then I moved to the States from Italy when I was 16 years old. So then I kind of had to figure out life, right? And in this figuring out of life, I had to re-question everything. And so in my early 20s, I had to reestablish my relationship with God real strong because I had to figure some things out. And after that, I was like, okay, you know, I got this God thing going on, like we're good. And then, you know how we do, we're having like a human experience. So I kind of just got in on the other side of life and started climbing this corporate America thing too fast and burnout, right? Then I found Reiki. And then, you know, you have these moments where you're just like, it becomes too much. And so I literally was like tired of the crazy life. And I was like, there has to be more. So then I go I find a mentor, my mentor, Gary, and he did these retreats that were called The Awakening. He started doing those forever ago. But I ended up at his retreat. And that's when I found out that people were like seeing things and energy, and there was Reiki, and there was all these healing modalities. And so my eyes were open and I was like, oh my gosh. After that, I still, like, I knew things, right? But I still had to like figure out the corporate America. And like, it was a rough road. Like the bottom line of the story is I didn't listen for a really long time until everything was taken from me. Like couple of times in a row. Like I told the story recently. I was like, I am pretty sure that I was like jobless and houseless, like in sections. And then the final time it was like, I was asked for a divorce. My last client let me go. And like, I was going to be without, it all happened on my birthday, like in one day. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing? Let's talk. And so finally, that's the time I listened, you know? So it had to get to that point where I was like, I shall put my gifts into practice. So that's when I really listened. My gifts came in. So through my life, I had an inkling, like I was always kind of more spiritual, like, you know, through the dark nights, you figure out your relationship with God, and you're kind of just, or at least with like source energy, you figure out how to pray, how to meditate, like there's a thing there, right? And then after I did the spiritual work and I became a Reiki master and everything else, even though I wasn't practicing it, I was like, I knew things, right? And so,
it changes your views, doesn't it? It changes the way that you it changes everything about how you experience the world or any individual that comes into your space, right? You're never quite the same once you've discovered those things.
Yeah, exactly. So
Carry on.
Kind of a different realm. But what I call my superpowers didn't really come in until I had a friend that he actually killed his girlfriend and then shot himself. So it was a very traumatic event. And I was so mad at him. It wasn't a friend, it was so I had my boyfriend's twin brother at the time. After we had gone through like all of this spiritual stuff together, he ended up killing his girlfriend, shooting himself, big drama. And I was so pissed and I was so mad. And I dropped down to like my knees and I was so pissed. So I was like, with everything that we've just learned, like this is what you do. And I wanted to find him. I wanted to literally spiritually punch him. Like, I was like, I'm going to come find you because like, I know people go someplace. And I had it was so loaded with emotion that I shot out of my body. And like, all of a sudden I was like, where the hell am I? And I found myself in this like holding like dimensional field. And I learned so many things and I saw where he was at. I saw what was happening. And I had this like crazy experience in my astral body. Right. So after that, I was like, holy shit. Like at first I would just, kind of have a relationship like in prayer, maybe with God, like understanding, asking, receiving, like I had that figured out, but this was different. So after that, I was like, holy shit. Then short after, so I learned that I could track energy. Right. And so a lot of people were like, hey, what's going on with so-and-so? And I'd be like, well, let me check. Because I learned how to do it. And then a year after that, so it was a blessing, right? Like for me to find my superpowers, even though everything was so traumatic. And then my grandma passed away a year after that. And we all discovered that I could talk to the dead people, right? You know what I mean? Like you kind of just have these moments, and they were defining moments. And after that, I was like, okay, there's a real need for me to like figure some things out about what's going on the other side. That's how it started. Yeah. I figured out that I could track energy. I figured out that I could hold people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So fascinating, eh? And I feel like when we talk about, like I grew up, my upbringing, there was no denomination, atheist in a way. There was no religion pushed in my upbringing whatsoever. So we kind of had, how am I going to say this? We never really had any exposure, shall we say, other than at school, or there would be some Bible studies once in a while. So it was never really a heavy indoctrination. However, when I got pregnant at 16 with my daughter, it's a pretty trying time. So you start looking for a few answers. And I did have an experience in the church, right? For a short period of time. Totally put me off from the whole religion and things like that. And so I know there's a lot of people who out there, when you talk about God, or if anyone brings up God, they're kind of pushing that away. But I really like to then reference God as consciousness or source or whatever, whatever makes someone feel comfortable. But it's really the divinity that's within all of us, right? That we're able to access. And as soon as we learn to and become more open to that, of course, that's when it starts to come in more, right? I mean, I have those experiences, and my mum does this to me once in a while. She goes, I need you to check in on someone. And I'll be like, Mom, I don't have the energy right now.
Yep.
But I've found my experience, they'll just drop in. And when this first started happening to me, I questioned so much of it and going, hang on, is this real? Is this what's actually going on? And, it turns out, it definitely is. And as you're saying, through tracking energy, well, again, bringing back to even from a quantum aspect or a science approach to it, hey, that's totally doable and possible, because we're really just in this massive invisible web, aren't we, really? So we can hunt down and look for, and I find that's an incredibly exciting thing for people to all access that. It's open to that, right? Yeah. So, you know, what a wonderful gift that then you've been able to step in and guide a lot of people through their journeys. And because I have to say, and I say this all the time, that when people talk about meditation, and I was in, you know, the wellness, well, I've been in the wellness industry all my life. I've been in group fitness, I've done this, and, you know, that much yoga and meditation and centering and all that kind of thing. But it wasn't until I stepped into your series, the was it the Sacred Chakra
The Sacred Chakra Journey?
I think that's the one that I stepped into. Yeah. And that for me was it was the beginning of, I can remember when I first started it, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute, and had to really, you know, keep coming in and getting out of the analytical side and allowing things to flow in. And the more that I did that, the more I was able to access things. And you know, that's been a couple of years now. So I know I was in Toronto, and this is when I had a pivotal moment for me when I probably real. This is exactly what's going on, because I was in Toronto, and we were doing a astral travel. You were guiding it, and I was seeing everything before you said it, because then you'd say it, and I was like, "Oh Lordy, I've just seen that."
Those are my favorites. And then you're like, "Holy shit, it's real!" Yeah.
It's real. This is so real. I am definitely here. So this is one of the reasons I want people to be able to sort of step into your work if they're hunting and finding, or have been trying meditation for quite some time and haven't really kind of got the hang of it. Your approach to energy was
you're cutting out a little bit.
So am I? What a bummer. So on the cosmic level, what's going on out there at the moment?
Oh, on a cosmic level, we are getting a massive new reset. So right now, as of right now, the Schumann resonance is on blackout. It's a 3-day blackout, which we knew something like this would happen before the solstice. So we're in between the 2 eclipses, right? In between the total solar eclipse in Gemini we just had, and then we have the solstice, which is just this massive, like 36D energy coming on the planet, which we never thought this was ever going to happen. We were like, I mean, at least me, I remember I was shocked when all of a sudden we're like, wait, there's 12D. I thought we were happy with the 5. Like, weren't we going from like 3 to 5, right? Like, I'm like, we're holding this 5 thing down. And then all of a sudden we get like to 12th dimensional energy in 2019 or it was 2019. At the end of 2019, 12D hit the grid. And now we're at 36D hitting the grid. So it's going really, really fast. Yeah.
So for those that are you know, sitting in and listening for this or watching on the replay, 36D, I mean, we're talking about plasma type energy,
It's plasma light. So backing up, right, in context, in 2012, the Earth emerged literally on like the solar system. Earth emerged in the galaxy. All of a sudden, we've been exposed since 2012, which is the reason why the Mayan thought that 2012 was like the end, right, of the world. They knew it wasn't the end of the world. People thought that the Mayan interpreted it as the end of the world, but it was an end of an era, basically an end of, you know, a part of Earth life, because we emerged in the, you know, in the galaxy. And so we've been exposed to levels of plasma light that have been getting us higher and higher in consciousness since that moment. So basically it was like we dropped what they called underworlds. It was a shift of dimensional shift, right? So
Yeah.
since then, it became available, like this fifth dimensional frequency, and then it started going, you know, bigger and bigger in terms of numbers, which means higher frequencies, bigger blasts, more light, right? So the rays of the sun, I think a lot of people felt it after, at least here in the United States, after 2017, the great, what they called the Great American Eclipse. And it was just this like huge, massive event. I remember afterwards, the sun rays changed. Like it was just a shift. The sun like became more crystalline, and there's been significant shifts, like just that you can feel, where people, you know, talk about light codes and energy that comes from the sun. But the process of us raising our frequency through this increased amounts of plasma light, what's happening is it's activating frequencies inside of our body that make it available for our DNA to come online. So we have, from the two strands that, you know, are and generally recognized from the, you know, scientific people, we actually have 12, right? We have 10 that are just dormant, 10 that are yeah, and those are the ones that we're working with now. Yeah,
right. And I know from, again, the work that I've been diving into through my PhD work is that, you know, those 12, you know, the 12 strands, they weave and they intertwine and into the invisible realm, into the matrix, shall we say, as well. So you know, the more we're learning about this from the scientific analytical proof to me it's real kind of thing, the more it is real, right? And in terms of DNA as well, and I always talk about this with in the work that I do with the frequencies, is that, you know, it's a bioacoustic and biophotonic antenna, and that, you know, we only express 98.5% of that DNA. So I imagine then all of these, as you're talking about these bigger energies coming through to activate that, to bring that online, is all a part of ascension, right? As us, as a humanity, as a civilization.
yes.
Yet there's so much resistance for that, isn't there, in lots of ways, from well, as we see it globally as well, in terms of humanity, the rising that we need to do collectively. And I wonder where that, you know, what is that resistance about? Why are humans so stuck into this?
The $1 million questions, billion at this point.
Why don't we want to become more higher civilizations, where we can harness the energies that are here, like other civilizations? What is wrong with us?
Well, nothing is wrong with us. We just haven't learned that there's another way. Honestly, we as a humanity, as a people of a whole globally, we're fighting an uphill fight, right? Because there's a certain group of people called the world management team, right? We'll call them that just like to perpetuate states of fear. You know what I mean? Like, there's fear and there's just, I feel like it's like holding the people small, holding treat the people like they're idiots, so that then they will believe they're idiots, and then they will become idiots. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a lot of that in general. There's a lot of things that are done in a way that is unhealthy for the people, and they're sadly done on purpose, and they're sadly done for power, you know, for greed, those kinds of things. And so the people as a whole, even though the people have the power, right? We have so much more power than anybody imagines. We're used to being, it's like the rulership, you know what I mean? Like the dictatorship. Oh, you know, but the king is so powerful. We don't have a king, but it's the same feeling, right? It's kind of that feeling of like there's a ruling situation. And so the people are just kind of like, well, this is what I do. I wake up, I go to work, I do this, and then, you know, da 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 da. And it's become somehow a numb way of life where people just want to function. They just want to get through their days. And it's become like non-purposeful, non-meaningful. A lot of people are waking up to this, but I think that the biggest challenge that we face as literally a humanity is for people to break out of patterns, to break out of comfort, because it's like they're comfortable having a shitty life sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it really comes down to that. They're comfortable living in these like heartbreak zones, or, you know, not enough zones, or whatever that is, because these are the stories. And so then, you know, there's those of us that have had a chance, for better or worse, to wake up right before, where our triggers went inside of us and they're like, ding, 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 your mission's on, listen, you know, or there shall be consequences. So when that happens, you know, and those of us were like, holy shit, I got to do this, right? And so then we learn the things, we do the things, we get on the path, we get on the mission, and then we're like, people, you must listen, you know, because we make it to this other side, we make this like shift, and then it's like, it's so much better to live on this side. And so then now we're the ones with the megaphone saying, hey, let's do it this way. Like there is a way. Yeah, there is a way.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the world management people. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, and this is a way that I always say to people, you know, I was one of those. I lived in that state, as I know many of us, all of us have, you know, that on the other side can go, wow, living that way was, so, you know, you're much along, you're supposed to be doing, you're meeting all of, you know, the expectations, or what society is saying is how we're supposed to live our life. And I know, you know, a few years back, that I just it wasn't out of the blue, it was a long time coming. I wasn't listening for a long time. And when I finally, you know, woke up, I didn't know what it was I was waking up to. I just knew that there was something other, right? And there was something else. And so that's what really sort of took me. And so as you're saying, as you wake out of that, and you start discovering how much control you have and how much power you actually have in bringing into your reality what it is that you choose. And I'm sure a lot of people struggle with this as well, is that it's been able to hold the alignment, right? We talk about this all the time, and people speak of this, and I know that it's easy to get knocked back into those old vibrational patterns, which essentially is what it is, right? Yeah. And to actually, the one thing that's really come into my radar just even recently is how powerful intention is. So the intention is what moves energy, and so often we are just going through motions, and then we're going, I tried that, it didn't work. It's like, because you're missing a secret ingredient here, people. So tell me your top tips, because I know the wonderful things in the work that you do is through meditative work and through manifestation and astral travel. First of all, you get to all of the top tips. Why does somebody want to astral travel? Tell me that. I mean, I know why, but
so there's honestly two reasons. Sometimes people want to do it just because it's fun and because they can do it with me in a safe way and without taking any drugs. So it feels like, you know, you can try it out and you can see if you have an experience of it and be safe. And then you know that you're not going to go on a bad trip because you're not taking anything that's out of your control, right? So those people do come to me. And that's a thing, because it's like, you know, you want to have experiences without I have a lot of people that will follow me that are like left brain, right? To right brain. And so it's like, you need the logic of it all to work. But the truth of it is, and why would people want to, is because you can have these states of higher consciousness that will ultimately forever change your experience of what is real on planet Earth. And once you have this shift, once you can touch this frequency, right, and your cells actually have this experience, whether it's actually imaginary, because at first you're like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm just going to see what you say, but you have a feeling of it. And that feeling forever changes, the experience changes your cells. It changes your cellular frequency. And so after that, you're able to be in an elevated state of consciousness, which means you generally make better choices. You're less reactive, right? You're having a better day. Like, you know what to do if somebody pisses you off. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's just, there's a state of being that's more harmonious. It's just, you see things from, I like to call it, you know, your higher self perspective, more of an eternal perspective. So you have access to answers, right? You understand things from different perspectives, and you can literally download solutions. So to me, it's like, why would I not? And the truth is, we are astral projecting, which means that we are reconnecting with parts of us in higher consciousness that we just don't know that we're connected to, right? And so we're not ejecting our spirit outside of our bodies. We're retaining consciousness here and projecting, right? Like sending a line up to our higher self. And then with our higher self, we go and explore, and we remember who we are. We see things, and all of a sudden it's like, like in the Matrix, they say, open your mind. It's like you open your mind and you're just like, holy shit. And it's almost like, to compare it to something that everybody can experience on Earth, it's almost like, when people just like, they live in a small town, they've never traveled, they've never seen a big city, they've never seen another country, they've never seen like other, cultural ways of life. Their mentality is sort of, it hasn't expanded, right? They only know one way. They haven't seen anything else. So to them, it requires a whole lot more, imaginations to create something new, because you're in a pattern of life. When you start traveling the world, you're like, holy shit, people do this here, people eat this here, this is allowed. People go out here like without their talks, you know what I mean? Like different parts of the world do different things. And so you start to open that up. Same thing with the astral planes, like you travel up and you're like, holy shit, on this planet, this is available, this happens, and it's like, oh, my higher self can do this. So it's really like that. And then you come home, and when you go on trips, you come home culturally enriched, right? You had an experience that changed your life. When you go on astral trips, you come back to your body and you're forever shifted, because you're now, you have this experience inside of you, and you were able to transmute. And we can do a lot of work in a short time, which is the reason why I love it, because we can get things accomplished.
Well, that's right. And it does. And as you're talking about accessing answers and, tapping into those different timelines, when I was talking yesterday about, what really are timelines. I mean, that's why there's infinite possibilities that exist, out in the cosmos, or all around us all the time, because it's a matter of being that everything is frequencies. You get into being able to access and as you're saying, tap into higher self, who we truly really are from a energetic being. Then you can go and tap into all of those timelines, because they all exist, right? And what comes into this physical reality is what we've folded and collapsed the timelines into the ones we want to experience. So, you know, there's another reason I feel also to get out and to learn how to access an astral travel, because, you know, yeah, you can, as you're saying, you can go and get that information. You can go and heal, and I know that we can go into, you know, the future and have that impact us here as much as we can go into the past and do work there or get insight there, so then we can heal those and then bring that forward into our life here. Because we both know, and I know all the tribes that work with you, we all know that impacts us in every single aspect of our existence here. So for those that are listening, yeah, definitely jump on and learn to how to astral travel. So then I'm gonna get you to finish off for us, please. What are your top tips? What's your top manifesting? Let's start with, what are your top manifesting tips? How's that?
What's my top manifesting? Meaning like tips?
Yeah. What are your top key things that you feel that if you were going to impart onto somebody, how you've created an amazing, and especially in the last short period of time, like your world has just gone boom.
It all
some
adds
of
up.
that.
Yeah, this is what I want to say to everybody, because people are witnessing this last year and how it all exploded for me. But I had to do the work before that, right? Yeah. So remember, number one thing in manifesting, it all adds up. Every time you do the work, even if you then, you know, it's like, oh, well, I screwed up, right? And I went back down and it doesn't matter. Every time you do the work, it adds up. It adds up. It adds up all the time. So it's never pointless, right? If you then do something stupid and then you undo it. A lot of people think that. No, it all adds up. Number one. Number two, it's always worth it, even when it's hard, right? And people will tell you you can't do it. People will tell you it's impossible. People will tell you nobody's that. Who cares? When you're really after something, it doesn't matter what anybody else's thoughts are about it. And the truth is, I have learned that I just don't talk about it, because people will think you're nuts. People will think you're crazy. So, you know, it's just, and it's not even just that, but they may say something that gets under your skin or like in your thoughts, that's enough to trip you up. Okay. So, and the third thing is, so basically do it. And then, you know, don't talk about it. Just do the damn thing. And then show everybody that you did it. Right? Like, there you go. And then because there's a lot of people that talk through it, and then it's like, and then they get the opposition. You know, there's an opportunity for the stuff to be inserted in there. So I think it gets trickier. And then the other thing with manifesting, yeah.
So I was going to say, yeah, that's the interference that you know, that is out there when, you know, you're doing all that work, you're putting it out there, and thoughts are the only thing faster than the speed of light is a thought, and as you're saying, yeah, if you get people kind of doing whatever they do, that interference can make things so much more challenging, right? So yeah, and so your third one.
Yeah. And then my third one is, no matter what your thoughts tell you, and this is the key, no matter what your thoughts tell you, there is always a higher answer. And if it's something that you want, it is always possible to create it. And you just have to change your thoughts around it, right? So when your head says, oh shit, should I not? Can I really do that? Oh, I thought I did, you know, I thought I was going to get it, but then I didn't. So maybe I'm just not good enough, right? Or whatever the story is that's in there, it is available to change it. A better thought is always available. And that's the key, because a lot of times we just, you know, if it's not, and then let's put number 4 in here, because it's like, if, yeah, if if you want it and you know that you're going to get it, and this is the part where a lot of people end up giving up, is manifesting is not a function of this week or this month. Manifesting is a matter of frequency matching. So when you want something and you want it by this weekend, or you want it by the end of the month, it happens because you know that you're a match for it. And so the thing shows up. Like literally, it's a frequency, energetic match. Okay. But if you're not, and it's the end of the month and you wanted it and you thought you were going to manifest it, a lot of people, what happens is, damn it, it's the 30th. I'm letting it go. Don't let it go. Stay, work on it, stay working on it. Because if it's not this month or this weekend or this day, it'll be tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just need a little bit more belief, a little bit more belief. So one story that happened recently that I showed, and I've learned to use money because in showing the manifesting process, just because money is obvious. Like money just, you know what I mean? Like when you're like, I tell stories of me healing my body and everything else, and it's like less quantifiable in a lot of ways. So I started using money.
Exactly.
Yeah, I started using money because that's like numbers. It's right there in your face, right? So I have a minimum, which is insane to even think about now, that I built. You know, if you would have told me this 3 years ago, I would have been like, you're crazy. Like that was like well beyond what I thought was possible. But my minimum monthly, bare minimum is $50,000 per month. Okay. In my organization, that's just where I'm at. I have worked my way there. And this year, in truth, my minimum, my new minimum is 70,000. I was like, this is it. I have big things to do. I have to travel. Like I have to tell people my message, because then when you get on mission, you're like, I need money to support me. Right.
So 100%. Can't do the work otherwise.
I had a couple of months that I wasn't doing good. And so I kind of let this go. I let the 70,000 go. And I was like, I'm going to be okay if we hit 50, right? Like I'm good with that. I'm probably not going to put in the extra energy. I need to heal my body. I had this whole detox thing that I was doing. So a series of things happened. And one of my, Kelsey that works, she helps me with the management of things. We were looking at it. So we're looking at the numbers, and the numbers at the end of the month added up to like 48.6, I think, like, and I was like, that's not possible. And she's like, it's kind of the second, like everything closed. And I was like, watch, I don't ever make there is no possible reality. There's no universe. I refuse in which I don't make at least $50,000 a month. That's what comes through, period, the end, right? Like I was like, I don't believe it. And it stayed and it stayed and it stayed. It took a month and a few days. And I was like, no, I don't know how that money is going to show up. Something will come up. I don't know what it is. But that month, I think it was like the month of April or May. No, the month of March, or I can't remember. I think it was April. I was like, there's no way. And soon enough, it took like 4 weeks, I think 3 to 4 weeks. I got a check in the mail for the exact amount that matched. And I was like, oh, this is the rest of the money for April. Because
it was that.
And it was exact, right? And I took a picture of it and I shared it on my stories too. And I was like, this is why we just don't let go. Like I never believed it. I refused it completely as a reality. But a lot of people are like, well, in the face of the current circumstances, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, it doesn't look like it happened. No, we still refuse it. We still, like, when we are in creation of what we want, we hold it, period. So, and then it happened.
I love that. I love that story, and thank you for sharing that one, because I do feel that's probably the biggest obstacle. You know, I work in helping people restore from you know, some pretty chronic disease, shall we say, and it's the most challenging aspect of that is continuing to hold the space for that and to know it's possible. And you know, and as you're saying, sometimes you slip out of that or what have you, but to be able to continue to come back to go, I know I haven't found that. because it is tangible, and as you're saying, it's harder to quantify things otherwise. Yeah, it's been able to hold, that's what we say, hold faith, right? For myself, we're not going to do that. That experience and continuing to hold that. So yeah, things do show up. My thing I love to share with people is that when things show up, as small as it is, to recognize that, and I thank you for seeing and hearing me as well. And I believe that right. So manifesting, yes. And last but not least, like from a meditative perspective, like for those that are, that comment, I can't do it, I don't think it's working, or
I'm not hearing this one. It's like really frozen. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Tell me when I'm back. Am I back?
You're back. Okay. So you were saying from a meditative perspective, the people that say that they can't do it. Yeah.
Yes. Or that struggle with that. Any advice? I know you have a lot of things available and resources available on your website. So if you can share a piece of advice around that, and then tell people how they can find you and hook up to your amazing stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay. So I have things to say about that, because at the beginning of time, I thought meditation was just like a crock of shit. So and now I teach it, right? And I had no time for meditation. I couldn't do it. My mind was too busy. When people were like, clear your mind, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, do you know how many thoughts are in my mind right now? Like, I can't clear that. There's like, the world is happening. I'm conquering things. I'm busy, So the way that it worked for me, that's when I found Kundalini meditation. And I mean, just Kundalini in general is a concept. But what I learned is the power of breath work, right? Through like just using breath work and being busy. There's a way to meditate where you're busy. You're not just going blank mind, right?
Yeah.
You're actually busy doing something positive. So this is why meditation, this kind of meditation for me, like astral travel, or like Kundalini breath work, right? Meditating with breath work. You're not just sitting there like totally just like mind blank. You're meditating on the things that you want. You're meditating on higher states of consciousness, but you're giving your mind something to do. A lot of people, when they say I can't do it, it's because they can't do transcendental, or they just can't go to flowers, right? And they can't go to like, there's a peaceful stream. So the way that I do it is like, we're breathing, we're going, it's active. I call it active meditation, right? And so there's moments where you go in and you're quiet, but by this time you've activated your entire body and you're like, yeah, okay, now I can hold the silence. Now I can hold this, you know what I mean? But it find a way that works for you. Meditation is a way to connect to the truth of who you are and to the things that you want. So there's no one right way of doing it. If one way of doing it doesn't work, find another way, like it's worth figuring out how to make it work for you. So
I love how you put it there, because I do believe that a lot of teachings, or as people are exposed to meditative practices, is it's about stillness and quietening the mind. And as you're saying, I think what you've described is probably a majority of people's experiences. And the two key things one key thing that really stood out for me is, why would you want to do it? Well, because you meditate on the things that you want. So why wouldn't you want to do that? And it doesn't have to be for hours on end, and I understand that. And it can also be, I've learned for myself, I can, learn to meditate and get into that space while I'm out walking, or it doesn't have to be sitting.
Yeah.
all
Once
the
you
time.
actually tap into it, you can be in that state all the time.
Yeah. So where can people find you? If you can shout out the top places. Yes, please do. And then I'll let you get back to your gorgeousness.
Oh, thank you. So I was so happy to share with you. So my website is www.moonbabetribe.com. But everything, wherever you find me on social medias, if you just Google MoonBabes with an S and the Light Tribe, you find me. You find, if you just Google, right, MoonBabes and the Light Tribe, you'll find the YouTube channel. You'll find my Instagram. You'll find my Facebook. And I'm most active on my Instagram. My website has a free course for people. There's free resources on there. And then on my YouTube, there's a playlist where you can try different kinds of meditative experiences. There's free like astral travels, there's free Kundalini, there's free just kind of clear your mind meditation. And you'll see, we don't sit in silence. Like, I totally get that.
Are there ones to access the Akashic records and through that list as well?
I don't know that we have any that access the Akashic records on YouTube, but there are, like, we go to Sirius. You'll go to Sirius, you'll get to meet the council, you'll go to like the Great Central Sun. So there's really cool experiences on there. Yeah.
No, I'll finish and close with the experience I had recently with one of the travels that we did, and which was extremely profound for me. And I think we went to Sirius, not the last one, but the one before. I think we went to Sirius, and there was a big galactic council meeting. Yeah, and that was insane. And I think I might have mentioned it in the chat at the end. It's like I got pulled into this other beautiful, a big kind of boardroom aspect or what have you, and had this meeting across from this huge table. I really didn't know, but I didn't need to know exactly what it was about. I just knew that it was like what it was a code master saying, right now you can now here's the codes for this, and that was so profound. It was such an amazing experience. I loved every moment of it. So and that's where I had to get into that space afterwards and go, well, you don't have to know all of those details, as you're saying. It's actually through the DNA. It's the accessing and integrating into that aspect of our being for whatever needs to and is going to be coming through. So that was one of my favorite ones for sure. But anyway, I'm going to let you go.
Better.
What's that?
I feel like it keeps getting better as the energy allows us to do more, right? And then we get these higher and higher and higher states of consciousness. It's so good. Yeah.
Oh, such a great space to be in. And I look back now, and I would say this to a lot of my friends who are, on the other side of or have had that switch. And you go, how would you ever go back to a 3D, full on 3D way of living? I can't even imagine that whatsoever. It'd be like a nightmare. So
yeah. We're thankful.
I shout out to everybody who's going to jump on and catch this replay as well. Do go and check out Sonia's work, because it's definitely life-changing. So I'll catch you on
we have a new thing coming up for the solstice too. If anybody wants to try it out, we're calling it the solstice in 3060, and it's a single purchase. So if you ever want to just try something, in the live.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we'll see a lot of people there. All right, I'm going to hook out of here. I don't know how to get out of here, but
thank you for having me, beautiful. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time and sharing with me. I really appreciate it.
Bye to everybody, to all of the beautiful crew, and I will see you in the astral planes and on the internet. Bye.
Absolutely gorgeous. catch you later. Bye.